Hi, this is James Hannon. I'm from the Theology Department, and this is Teacher Features. Today I'm going to be talking about comic life. In order to show the difference between the Gospels, what we call historical criticism, I try and focus on what the kids know. And I think that they are really good at storytelling. They're all about storytelling. So I believe comic life is a great avenue for that storytelling opportunity. So what I have the kids do, what I have my students do, is show how each gospel portrays the nativity scene of Jesus. So we look at Mark's gospel and we look at Matthew's gospel, and we create comics for both of those gospels and parallel those stories. And once they're able to do that, they're able to really see the difference between both of those gospels.
Okay, so here we see the program Comic Life. I just wanted to point this out to you. What I tell my students to do is first give me a title page. This one's okay, but we'll just use it as an example right now. With this program, you have so many opportunities to really become creative or be creative. You'll see at the bottom here, they have a plus button. I'm just going to click that. And you really have so many options available to you as to how you're going to start your comic life. Do you want to start it with the story right away, or do you want to go with a blank title? If you do want to go with a blank title, you have all these bottom options available to you. And what you usually see the students do is they grab one of these guys and just drop it down. And the whole point of the project is to focus on one of the Gospels and what the Gospel writer is trying to say in this nativity story. So usually the students will title it the Gospel and then the nativity story or something along those lines. So we'll go with Gospel of Luke, nativity story. Or you can go with something different, Luke's nativity story, that type of thing. You can also expand it, so you can make it look big. You can change the font background, and usually that's what you'll see the kids do on the front part. And it's really a great way for the kids to be creative with their book creating. They're actually creating a whole book themselves. So this is basically the title page that they come up with. You'll then see that they have options when it comes to the actual storytelling itself. You can see with this example, the student chose to go with biblical images, and that's fine. With this story, he starts with the angel visiting Mary and telling about the birth of Jesus. And they don't choose, generally they won't choose the actual quotes from the Bible. They'll write their own script using the images. And we see how that goes from one to another. The student decided to go with the 6-figure square. But you can also choose various other ones. As you can see on your right side, you can go with the 5-figure right here. If you don't like that, you can delete it, or you can add another page if you want to do that. And we can go with, let's say something dramatic is happening, you might go with a 3-figure. You'll see, just as an example, generally you'll want to save images to your desktop from online, or images maybe that you can create yourself. But what you do is you simply just drag the image to the square, and the image will show up in that corresponding square, like so. If you wanted, let's say, the Moreau building to say something, you just drop the building down, or the script down, and there you go. It says, "Hi, I'm Moreau." And that's where you get the text talking. I felt like this was a really good assignment for the students because it incorporates contemporary modern literature like graphic novels or comics to say something about or to tell the stories of ancient literature like we have with the New Testament. I'm going to pull up an example right now, a finished example. We're going to scroll away from here. This is the Magnificent Matthew, Tales of the Gospel. And we see here that it doesn't begin with the angel visiting Mary. It begins with the angel visiting Joseph. And Joseph's dream about Mary being pregnant. We then move down, and we get the whole story of Herod and how he wants to find the Messiah so he can continue to have his power, and that the Messiah can't take over his power, the king of the Jews. And so you can see how the story is just being told through images. And we know that many children today are visual learners, and by them finding their own images to represent what's going on in the text, they can really get more out of it. And you see how the progression of the story goes forward. But it doesn't just stop there. We get Matthew's gospel, and then we move over, and I have him create a whole nother one that shows how Luke wanted to present his gospel. And we have Legends of Luke, Tales of the Gospel. It's kind of a scary story, I guess. In this one, we see how Luke begins actually with Zechariah, and how Zechariah is told that he's going to have a son named John. This is referring to John the Baptist. Zechariah doesn't think that's going to happen for him. He disagrees, and that's where we get this word doubt. I love how he did this. The reason why I like how he did this is because there's a creative aspect to it as well. Later, I told my students after receiving this assignment for the first time that I wanted them to use less religious imagery. I wanted them to try and find contemporary images that they think could relate to this story. So I love how this student brought in this word doubt to really kind of point out what's going on with Zechariah and him doubting the angel. And because he doesn't believe, Zechariah is told that he can't talk until John the Baptist is born. And then we get how it moves over to, the protagonist in the New Testament, which is Jesus, and how his origins, and we get the angel visiting Mary. And then we get Mary's conversation with the angel continuing. Love how we get the student says kind of his own language here. It's really not English, but it's also makes sense for them. I told them that they could take liberties with the language, not too much that it should still make sense, but you can see he's saying "Okay, thanks, bye," but it's kind of in the students' kind of texting language, and we could see wait, what? Kind of their own interpretation of what's going on right now, which is great. And then they brought in these various images of how Mary met Elizabeth. We move down there. Elizabeth giving birth to John the Baptist. And Mary giving birth. And the big thing that I point out to the students is why do we see, or I ask them, why do we see an angel appear to shepherds in Luke and then Magi appearing to Jesus, as we see here? What Luke is trying to show basically in his gospel is that Jesus, the protagonist in this story, is a savior for the poor. Jesus is a savior for the poor. That's why we see shepherds leaving their flock to worship this baby. But in the story of Matthew, we get the Magi, the wealthy, visiting Jesus. And the reason why we get this is because Matthew is trying to show that Jesus is the Messiah that the Jews had been waiting for. That's why we get the whole story with King Herod. King Herod is wondering why Jesus or wondering about this prophecy that was supposed to take place, that the Jews were expecting a Messiah. And the Magi, who are not Jews, worship this person because they know him to be the Messiah. And Matthew's essentially asking in this story, why don't we know him to be the Messiah? Why don't Jews know him to be the Messiah if the Gentiles do? And I felt like this project did a good job of showing the differences between these two. The kids had to basically, by creating the story, they read it several times. They constantly went through the story, both stories, and juxtaposed Matthew's gospel with Luke's gospel. By creating these images, it really etched in their mind the differences between the two, and essentially what each gospel writer was trying to say through their images. So that's Comic Life, and I think it's a great tool to use for storytelling, especially comparative literature, really trying to understand what a writer is trying to say and how the kids can be creative with that storytelling. Essentially, they're taking another story and putting in their own terms, putting in their own experience, and using their technological know-how in order to do so. Thank you.